Blood, fire, smoke. Marcus Washington had 10 seconds. 10 seconds before the car exploded. 10 seconds to choose, save himself or save her. He chose her, always chose others. That's who he was. That explosion ended his military career, shattered his leg, destroyed his future. Today, Marcus Washington is a janitor, $32,000 a year, single father, raising a daughter with cerebral palsy. Catherine Sterling is a billionaire CEO, 800 million empire, two daughters who've never spoken a single word. For 5 years, their worlds existed in separate universes, until one Monday morning when everything shattered. This is the story of how one word changed 4 lives forever. Marcus's alarm buzzed in the darkness. 5:30 a.m., same as every day for 3 years. He moved quietly through the cramped 2-bedroom apartment on Redmond Heights' 3rd floor. Peeling wallpaper caught the hallway's dim light. Secondhand furniture filled every corner, but clean. Everything in its place. Military habits never die. Morning sunshine. Zoe lay in her adaptive bed, eyes already open. She couldn't move her arms or legs, couldn't speak clearly, but her eyes held entire conversations. She blinked twice. "Good morning, Daddy." Marcus had learned her language. 2 blinks, yes. 1 blink, no. 3 blinks, "I love you." He changed her with practiced movements, honed over 3 years. Every motion efficient, gentle. The way Navy corpsmen handled fragile things in war zones. Wash her face, brush her hair into 2 small puff balls, dress her in the purple shirt and with butterflies she loved. Physical therapy at 3 today. Remember, Mrs. Patterson's driving you. Feeding took 45 minutes. Pureed oatmeal, 1 careful spoonful at a time. Most mornings he'd be late to work. He'd been late 247 times in 3 years. He'd never been fired. The photo on the nightstand showed a beautiful black woman in nurse scrubs smiling at the camera. Sarah, his wife, Zoe's mother, dead 3 years. Sarah Washington died in a car accident when Zoe was 2. Single vehicle collision on Highway 520. Brake failure. The insurance investigator called it mechanical error. Marcus called it the worst day of his life. But he wasn't always a janitor. Marcus was a Navy corpsman, a combat medic, 8 years saving lives in war zones. He'd seen death, held dying soldiers, prayed over children caught in crossfire. His last mission pulled 3 children from a bombed hospital in Damascus, saved them all, lost his legs full function when the building collapsed. Medical discharge. No pension because the injury happened off mission. No career. And when he came home, Sarah was gone. The 6:45 bus carried him through Seattle's awakening streets. 45 minutes to Bellevue Hills, mansions worth $10 million. A world away from his $850 a month apartment with water stains on the ceiling. 7:30 a.m. He changed into his Navy janitorial uniform in the staff room of the Sterling estate. 12,000 square feet of marble floors and empty rooms. Morning Marcus. Grace Martinez, head nurse, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, set down her coffee. The twins were restless all night. Mrs. Sterling has a board meeting at 9. She won't even see them this morning. Marcus's jaw tightened. 5 years he'd worked here. 5 years watching Catherine Sterling build walls around her heart to match the walls around her mansion. "I'll check on them." Grace smiled. "You always do." Marcus pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway toward the twins' care room. Original oil paintings lined the walls. Dead Sterling ancestors staring down with judgmental eyes. The house smelled like lemon polish and loneliness. As he approached the care room, he heard something that made him freeze. Crying. Not the usual fussing, real crying. Terrified. Panicked. He pushed the door open. Lily was seizing. Marcus dropped the mop. The Navy corpsman buried under 3 years of janitorial work exploded to the surface. "Grace, how long?" His voice transformed. Command, authority, the voice of a man who'd run field hospitals under mortar fire. 30 seconds, in ambulances, he gets no time. His hands moved like they'd never stopped being a medic. Fingers on Lily's carotid, checking airway, positioning her head with precision that came from muscle memory older than his grief. Recovery position. She's not getting enough oxygen. Grace grabbed the emergency kit. There should be a pediatric oxygen mask. Grace stared. "How do you now?" The door burst open. Catherine Sterling in a charcoal business suit, face white with terror. She'd heard the commotion from her office 2 hallways away. She ran, literally ran, something she hadn't done in this house since Andrew died. "What's happening, Lily? My baby, ma'am." "Step back." "She's seizing." "I need space." Marcus didn't look up. His hands were steady, checking vitals, monitoring the convulsions, calculating oxygen deprivation in his head the way he'd calculated survival odds for wounded Marines. Catherine watched in shock as her janitor worked with the precision of a trauma surgeon. "Grace, 2 milligrams diazepam now." "We don't have." Marcus pulled a small medical kit from his pocket. Always carried it. Old habit from deployments when you never knew when someone would need saving. He administered the medication with expert precision, the kind that came from inserting IVs in moving helicopters while taking enemy fire. 30 seconds later, Lily's seizure stopped. Her breathing steadied. Color returned to her face. Marcus sat back, sweat on his forehead. His hands didn't shake. They never shook during emergencies. Only after Rose, who'd been screaming silently in her crib, reached out one tiny hand and touched Marcus's arm. And then the moment that changed everything. "Da-dee." Time stopped. Grace's clipboard clattered to the floor. Catherine's Hermes bag slipped from her fingers, hitting marble with a sound like a gunshot. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Lily's eyes fluttered open. She looked directly at Marcus with clarity Catherine had never seen in 5 years. "Daddy." Catherine Sterling felt like she'd been shot. Her daughters, her babies, who'd never spoken, who every doctor said would never speak, who Dr. Helen Parker at Seattle Children's Medical Center had declared neurologically incapable of language, had just called the janitor daddy. In that moment, Catherine Sterling's entire world shattered. 5 years of carefully constructed control, 5 years of distance, 5 years of believing that money and medicine could fix anything. One word destroyed it all. And the man who'd spoken that word into existence had secrets Catherine couldn't begin to imagine. Catherine stood in the hallway after Marcus left, trembling. Her mind raced like a computer processing impossible data. How? How did he do what an entire team of specialists couldn't? She pulled out her phone, called David Chen, her head of security. "David, I need a full background check. Marcus Washington, I want everything, employment history, medical records, military service, everything." 20 minutes later, David called back. His voice carried confusion and something else. Caution. "Ma'am, there's a problem." "What problem?" "Most of his file is classified. Military seal. I can't access it without federal clearance." Catherine's voice went ice cold. The CEO voice. The one that made board members squirm. "Then get federal clearance." "Ma'am, that could take weeks. And even then, do it today." She hung up, opened her laptop, accessed the estate's security camera system. For the next hour, Catherine did something she'd never done. She watched Marcus work. 7:30 a.m. previous Tuesday, Marcus humming a lullaby while cleaning the care room windows. The same lullaby Andrew used to sing. How did he know it? 10:15 a.m. previous Thursday, Marcus sitting on the floor during his break reading a picture book to the twins. Voice slow, deliberate, pausing after every sentence, giving them time to process. Like a speech therapist. But he was a janitor. 2 p.m. previous Friday during the thunderstorm. Marcus holding Rose's hand while lightning flashed. She'd been terrified. He stayed 30 minutes past his shift, singing softly. Not the manufactured comfort of hired help. Real tenderness. 4:45 p.m. yesterday. Marcus writing in an old brown leather notebook. Catherine's breath caught. That notebook. She'd seen it before. She ran upstairs to the care room, tore through cabinets with shaking hands. Behind the bottom drawer wedged in the gap where dust gathered the notebook. Andrew's notebook. She opened it with trembling fingers. Andrew Sterling's notes. For my girls, pages of childcare notes in Andrew's slanted handwriting. Feeding schedules, developmental milestones to watch for. Song lyrics, lullabies. You are my sunshine circled 3 times. Below it, Andrew's last words to his daughters, for when I'm not here anymore. Sing this every night. They'll remember they're loved. Catherine collapsed into the rocking chair, notebook pressed to her chest. Sobs tore from her throat. The kind of crying she'd forbidden herself for 5 years. The kind that came from a place deeper than grief. Regret. For 5 years, she'd cleared this room of Andrew's things. Too painful. Too raw. She'd hired professionals to remove every trace. Photos, clothes, his coffee mug with the chipped handle. But she'd missed this piece of him. And Marcus had found it, had honored it, had given Andrew's voice back to their daughters. 7 a.m. the next morning. Catherine waited in the breakfast room, coffee untouched. Marcus entered through the service door, still in street clothes, preparing to change into his uniform. "Mr. Washington, please sit." Marcus stopped in the doorway, tense, shoulders squared, expected to be fired. "Ma'am, sit, please." He sat carefully, hands folded, military posture. Catherine studied him, really looked at him for the first time in 5 years. Late 30s, lean but strong, weathered face, the kind that came from seeing too much. Eyes that were kind but haunted. A faint scar on his left temple, another on his forearm visible below his rolled sleeve. "I saw what you did yesterday. With Lily. I'm sorry if I overstepped." "You saved her life," Marcus looked down. "Just did what needed doing, ma'am." "No, you did what a trained medical professional would do." "Where did you learn that?" Silence. "Mr. Washington, where did you learn?" That Marcus's jaw tightened. "Navy, ma'am. I was a corpsman, combat medic." Catherine's eyes widened. "And you're working as a janitor?" "Yes, ma'am." Why, Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her a photo, a beautiful little girl with bright eyes in a wheelchair, purple shirt with butterflies. "My daughter, Zoe. She has cerebral palsy, quadriplegic. I needed flexible hours. Benefits. Medical care costs $4,000 a month. This job gives me insurance." Something cracked inside Catherine's chest, a hairline fracture in the ice she'd built around her heart. The twins. How did you make them speak? Marcus met her eyes. "I didn't make them do anything, ma'am. I just talked to them. Every day, read to them, sang to them, held their hands when they were scared. That's all. Sometimes that's everything." Catherine's throat tightened. "Safety. You think they just needed to feel safe? Children don't need perfection, Mrs. Sterling, they need presence." The words hit like a physical blow. Catherine had given her daughters everything except herself. She placed the notebook on the table between them. Marcus's eyes widened. "You found this?" "Yes, ma'am. Behind the cabinet. I thought maybe your daughters should hear their father's voice." Catherine's hand touched the notebook. "My husband wrote this before he died. He knew he might not come back from that trip." Marcus listened, respectful silence. "And you used it. I'm sorry if..." "Don't apologize." Catherine looked directly at him, vulnerable for the first time. "You did what I couldn't do. You honored my husband's memory. You heard my daughters when I'd stopped listening." She stood abruptly. "From today, your duties change. I want you with the twins, full time. I'll double your salary." "Ma'am, I can't." $64,000 a year, better insurance. Cover Zoe's medical costs, too." Marcus sat stunned. "I don't understand." Catherine's voice broke. "My daughter said their first words to you, Mr. Washington. Not to me, not to their mother. To you." She walked toward the door. Voice over her shoulder, "Don't disappoint them." Marcus sat alone in the breakfast room for 5 minutes after she left, hands shaking, not from fear, from hope. The thing he'd stopped letting himself feel. $64,000. Zoe's medical costs covered. He could stop working nights at the gas station. Stop stealing sleep in 4-hour chunks. Stop watching his daughter's equipment fund drain while he chose between physical therapy and groceries. But it wasn't the money that made his chest tight. It was Catherine Sterling's eyes when she'd said, "You heard my daughters when I'd stopped listening." He'd seen that look before, in Damascus, in the eyes of a mother whose child he'd pulled from rubble. Gratitude mixed with guilt, mixed with something deeper. The look of someone realizing they'd almost lost what mattered most. Friday afternoon, 3 p.m., Marcus drove his 15-year-old Toyota to the Sterling estate, Zoe secured in her wheelchair-accessible back seat. Mrs. Angela Patterson, his 70-year-old neighbor, had driven Zoe for 3 years. Former pediatric nurse, helped Marcus navigate Zoe's care when Sarah died. Today, she'd agreed to let Marcus take her himself. "You're nervous, baby." Mrs. Patterson's voice was warm. She sat in the passenger seat, having insisted on coming along. "No, ma'am. And that's why you've adjusted that rearview mirror 6 times. Marcus smiled despite himself. Mrs. Sterling invited us. That's all. She invited you to bring your daughter to her mansion, Marcus. That's not just professional courtesy. She's being kind. Mrs. Patterson patted his hand. When are you going to let yourself believe good things can happen? The Sterling estate's iron gates opened automatically. The driveway curved through manicured gardens. Zoe's eyes went wide. She made a sound, her excited sound. Big house sunshine, we're just visiting. Grace opened the front door. She's in the garden. With the twins, the garden stretched behind the mansion. Catherine sat on a blanket on the grass. No business suit, jeans and a lavender sweater, hair loose around her shoulders. Marcus had never seen her in anything but armor. She looked younger, softer, human. Lily and Rose sat in their adaptive equipment on the blanket, playing with soft blocks, or trying to. Their movements were limited, but they were trying. When Zoe saw the twins, her whole face transformed. She made her happy sound, the one Marcus lived for. Ah. Lily and Rose turned. For a long moment, the three little girls just stared at each other. Then Rose reached out her hand. Hi. Zoe blinked rapidly, so excited she couldn't control it. Sounds tumbled out. Not words, but communication. In that moment, something extraordinary happened. Three little girls, all born with bodies that didn't work the way they should. All told they'd never speak, never connect, never be normal. Found each other and recognized you're like me. Marcus and Catherine stood 10 feet away watching. Mrs. Patterson had taken a seat on the patio, giving them space. They understand each other. Catherine's whisper was filled with wonder. Always do. Kids like ours, they see past the surface. Catherine looked at Marcus, really seeing him. Not the janitor, the man. How do you do it alone? Working 2 jobs, Zoe needs constant care. How do you not break? Marcus watched Zoe laugh with the twins. You love them more than you're tired. Every morning I wake up exhausted. Every night I fall asleep worried. But then she smiles at me and I do it all again. Forever. His voice caught on the last word. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Shame burned through her. She'd had everything, money, staff, resources, and she'd still pushed her daughters away. Marcus had nothing, and he'd never given up. The afternoon sun slanted through the oak trees. The 3 girls played in their limited way. Zoe couldn't move her hands, so Marcus helped her hold a soft toy. Rose couldn't grasp well, so Catherine guided her fingers. Lily watched with bright eyes, making sounds that were almost words. For 2 hours, the world narrowed to that blanket. 2 parents, 3 children, no wealth, no poverty, just presence. Mrs. Patterson watched from the patio with knowing eyes. She'd seen this before. 2 people damaged by loss, slowly remembering how to live. Catherine's phone rang. Richard Blackwood. She answered. Richard, Kate. Emergency board meeting, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Catherine's face hardened. What? Why, James and I have concerns about your judgment lately. My judgment is fine. Is it? You've canceled 3 major meetings, turned down the Tokyo deal, and now I hear you've hired your janitor as a nanny. Catherine's hand clenched around the phone. Who told you that, Kate? I'm your CFO. I know everything. The board wants to discuss your fitness to lead. The call ended. Catherine stood frozen. Marcus saw her face change. Watched the walls slam back up. Mrs. Sterling. She turned, eyes distant. CEO mode activated. I have to go. Emergency. Grace will stay with the girls. She walked toward the house without looking back. Marcus understood. He'd seen soldiers do it. Retreat into professionalism when emotions got too close. But he also saw what she didn't think anyone noticed, her hands shaking as she gripped her phone. That night, Catherine sat in her office. Didn't go to the board meeting preparation. Didn't review the files her assistant had sent. Just sat in darkness, staring at nothing. Richard Blackwood, Andrew's best friend. The man who'd stood beside Andrew at their wedding. Who'd held her when she collapsed at Andrew's funeral. Who'd run Sterling Biotech's finances for 15 years. Was trying to take her company. She'd been so focused on surviving, on keeping the machinery running, that she'd missed the sabotage. Canceled meetings weren't her being erratic. She'd rescheduled them. Tokyo wasn't declined, she'd renegotiated better terms. But Richard was spinning it differently, making her look unstable. Why? Her computer screen glowed. She opened Sterling Biotech's financial dashboard. Started digging. Something she should have done months ago, but grief and exhaustion had made her sloppy. 2 a.m., she found it. Wire transfers, 27 of them, to shell companies in the Cayman Islands, totaling $50 million, all authorized by Richard Blackwood, all without her signature. Catherine's blood ran cold. Not just a power play, embezzlement. She grabbed her phone, called her sister Jessica, a corporate attorney. Jess, I need you, now. Jessica arrived 30 minutes later, saw the evidence, went pale. Kate, this is federal. We need the FBI. Not yet. Tomorrow at the board meeting, I'm exposing him. That's dangerous. If he knows you know, Catherine's eyes were hard. I didn't build this company to let Andrew's killer steal it. Jessica froze. Killer Kate Andrew died in a plane crash. A plane Richard Blackwood serviced. A plane Richard knew had engine problems 3 days before the flight. You have proof? Not yet, but I will. Saturday morning, 8:45 a.m. Catherine dressed for war. Black suit, hair pulled back so tight it hurt. Louboutin heels sharp enough to draw blood. But her hands shook as she buttoned her jacket. At the estate, Marcus watched business news on his phone while the girls played. Sterling Biotech Emergency Board meeting today. Sources say CEO Catherine Sterling's leadership under review. His jaw tightened. He'd seen this before. Politics. People with power trying to destroy someone who threatened them. He made a decision. Mrs. P, I need you to watch the girls. All 4 of them. Mrs. Patterson looked up from her knitting. Marcus, what are you? I'll explain later. I need to go. He changed into his only suit. 5 years old, shoulders tight, pants an inch too short, but he pressed it, shined his shoes until they gleamed. In his drawer, his military medals lay wrapped in cloth. Purple Heart, Navy Cross, Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal. He looked at them for a long moment, closed the drawer. He wasn't that man anymore, but he could still fight. 9 a.m., Sterling Biotech Tower, 45th floor. Catherine entered the boardroom. 8 board members sat around the mahogany table. Richard Blackwood at the far end, smug smile. James Whitmore, chairman, cold eyes. Dr. Patricia Moore, the only one who looked uncomfortable. Jessica sat in the observer section, files ready. Catherine, thank you for coming on short notice. James's voice was false courtesy. I'm the CEO, James. This is my company. Where else would I be? Richard slid a folder across the table. That's exactly what we need to discuss. Catherine opened it. Surveillance photos. Marcus with the twins, Zoe in her wheelchair, Marcus's apartment building. You had me surveilled. We had concerns. James leaned forward. Catherine, in the past month, you've canceled the Tokyo expansion meeting worth $200 million. You declined the Kaiser Permanente contract. You've missed 4 board calls. And now we discover you have employed your maintenance worker as a child care provider. Marcus Washington is highly qualified. He's a former Navy corpsman with pediatric trauma experience. Richard laughed. A janitor qualified. Dr. Moore spoke carefully. Catherine, we're concerned about your judgment. Your daughters require professional care. Catherine slammed her hand on the table. My daughters spoke for the first time in 5 years because of Marcus. The room fell silent. That's not medically possible. Dr. Parker's diagnosis was clear. Dr. Parker was wrong. James's voice hardened. Or you're experiencing grief-induced delusion. Richard stood, projected documents onto the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, I've hired a psychiatric consultant. These are Catherine's behavioral patterns over the past year. Charts appeared, missed meetings, declined deals, isolation metrics, no romantic relationship since Andrew's death, now emotional attachment to employee, classic signs of unresolved grief and deteriorating mental capacity. Catherine's face showed shock. Betrayal rage. You son of a Jessica stood. This is insane. My sister built this company from James cut her off. Jessica, you're an observer, not a voting member. Richard's smile was predatory. Catherine, we're not your enemies. We want to help. Take a leave of absence. 6 months. Focus on your family. We'll manage operations. Catherine understood. You want my seat. I want what's best for Sterling Biotech. Catherine looked at Dr. Moore. The swing vote. Dr. Moore, you've known me 8 years. Do I seem incapable to you? Dr. Moore's face showed conflict. Catherine, I think you're brilliant, but I also think you're exhausted. Maybe a break. A vote, let's vote. Right now, do I remain CEO or not? James nodded. Very well. All in favor of Catherine Sterling's immediate leave of absence. 4 hands rose. 3 stayed down. Dr. Patricia Moore's hand hovered in the air. The deciding vote. I need a moment. 5 minutes. She stood and walked out. In the hallway, Marcus Washington waited. He'd talked his way past security by sheer determination. Former military bearing helped. He carried himself like someone who belonged. Dr. Moore saw him, a black man in an ill-fitting suit, quiet dignity, determination in his eyes. Something about him made her pause. Who are you, Marcus Washington? I work for Mrs. Sterling. Dr. Moore's eyes widened. You're the janitor they're talking about. Marcus met her eyes. Yes, ma'am, and I'm here to tell you what they won't. Dr. Moore should have walked away, but something in his voice stopped her. Mr. Washington, I have to vote in 2 minutes. What could you possibly? Lillian Rose Sterling spoke for the first time last Monday. Dr. Moore froze. That's impossible. Dr. Parker said I was there. I heard them. So did Grace Martinez. So did Mrs. Sterling. He showed her his phone, a video Grace had sent him. Lillian Rose sitting with him, saying Daddy clearly. Dr. Moore's hand covered her mouth. Tears formed. My God, Mrs. Sterling isn't losing her mind, Dr. Moore. She's finding her heart. For 5 years, she ran from grief by building an empire. I know because I did the same thing. I ran from my wife's death by working 3 jobs, telling myself I was providing for my daughter. But I was just hiding. Dr. Moore listened, riveted. Mrs. Sterling hired me to help her daughters. But what she's really doing is learning to be present, to choose love over control, to believe that her daughters can heal. Marcus's voice grew stronger. Dr. Moore, I don't know anything about business, but I know people. And I know Catherine Sterling, the strongest woman I've ever met. Not because she runs a billion-dollar company, because she had the courage to change. The board thinks she's having a breakdown. The board is wrong. Dr. Moore checked her watch. 9:52 a.m. I have to vote, I know. She paused at the boardroom door. Mr. Washington, thank you. Inside, everyone waited. Dr. Moore entered. All eyes on her. James spoke. Dr. Moore, your vote. Catherine looked defeated. 5 years of work about to crumble. She'd fought so hard, built so much, and one word from Dr. Moore would end it. Dr. Moore sat, looked at Richard, then Catherine. Before I vote, I have a question. Mr. Blackwood, you said Catherine's judgment is impaired. Yes. The evidence is clear. Then explain this. Dr. Moore projected her own documents. Financial reports. In the past month, while Catherine was supposedly deteriorating, Sterling Biotech's stock rose 12%. The FDA fast-tracked approval for our cardiac device. And we secured a $300 million investment from Kaiser that Richard claims we declined. Richard's face paled. That's not, I checked. Catherine never declined Kaiser. She renegotiated. Got better terms. We signed yesterday. The boardroom murmured. Catherine looked up surprised. She'd forgotten she'd done that. Working on autopilot while her heart was elsewhere. Catherine Sterling is many things, but incapacitated is not one of them. Dr. Moore's hand went firmly down. I vote no. Catherine remains CEO. Catherine's face showed relief, disbelief, gratitude all at once. Richard Blackwood stood so fast his chair tipped over. This is absurd. You're all making a massive mistake. Richard? Sit down. Richard lost control. She's unstable. She's jeopardizing everything we've built. Everyone stared. He'd said I. Jessica spoke quietly. You said I. Richard realized his slip. I meant. Dr. Moore leaned forward. Richard, how long have you been planning this takeover? Shouting erupted through the door. Marcus, still in the hallway, heard chaos inside. On a computer screen in Richard's office, unwatched, unguarded, a transfer executed. $50 million. Cayman Islands account. Automated, scheduled weeks ago. The conspiracy was unraveling. Part 2, Richard back toward the boardroom door. I don't have to listen to this. Catherine stood. Her CEO voice returned. The one that had built an empire from grief and ashes. Yes, you do. James locked the doors. James hesitated. Catherine, this is highly irregular. Do it, now. The electronic locks engaged with a soft click. Richard's eyes darted to the windows. 45th floor. No escape. Catherine pulled out her tablet. Fingers flew across the screen with the precision of someone who'd spent 5 years living in spreadsheets and financial reports because numbers didn't require emotions. Richard, in the past 5 years, how many international wire transfers have you authorized? That's my job as CFO. 4,127. I approved 4,100 of them. The screen displayed a cascade of transactions. Dates, amounts, recipient accounts. The boardroom leaned forward collectively, which means 27 transactions happened without my signature. Richard's face drained of color. Accounting errors, Catherine's voice cut like surgical steel, totaling $50 million to shell companies in the Cayman Islands, shell companies that trace back to you. The screen showed corporate registrations, Richard Blackwood listed as beneficial owner, hidden behind layers of LLCs and offshore entities. But there, undeniable. The boardroom exploded, voices overlapping, shock, outrage. James Whitmore's face went from hostile to horrified in seconds. How long, Richard? How long have you been stealing from my company? Richard laughed, bitter, broken. Your company, Andrew built this company. I worked beside him for 15 years. The memory hit Catherine like physical violence. Richard and Andrew, MIT classmates, best friends, built sterling biotech together in Andrew's garage. Equal partners pouring every dollar and dream into medical devices that would save lives. Until Andrew met Catherine. Until Andrew gave her 60% of the company as a wedding gift. Until Richard became second. I gave 15 years to this company, and Andrew handed it to you, a woman who didn't know the difference between a ventricle and a valve. Catherine's eyes blazed. So you stole it back, piece by piece. Richard's face twisted. I took what I earned, and Jessica's voice came from the observer section. Quiet, deadly. Oh my God. Richard, did you kill my brother-in-law? The room went silent, the kind of silence that precedes explosions. Richard's hands shook. The plane crash was investigated. Mechanical failure. Nothing suspicious. Catherine's voice barely controlled. Answer the question. Did you kill Andrew? Time stretched. Every person in that room stopped breathing. Richard's shoulders sagged. I didn't kill him, but I knew about the engine problem. 3 days before the flight, I could have told him, made him take a different plane. Catherine's world tilted. 5 years. She'd worked beside her husband's killer for 5 years. Trusted him with their company, their legacy, while he bled it dry and waited for her to fail. But I didn't. Jessica launched across the table. James caught her, held her back while she screamed, You murdered him. Richard's voice was hollow. I didn't pull a trigger. I just let fate take its course. Catherine sat down slowly, shock overriding rage. Her mind cataloged facts with clinical detachment, the only way she knew how to survive devastating information. Andrew had serviced the plane himself, trusted Richard with pre-flight checks. Richard knew about the sensor failure, knew it would kill Andrew over the Atlantic, and said nothing. The boardroom door burst open. Security had overridden the lock. Marcus Washington stood in the doorway. Catherine saw him. This man in his ill-fitting suit who'd saved her daughters. This janitor who'd fought his way through her world to protect her. This warrior she'd barely noticed for 5 years. And something inside her broke. Marcus, her voice cracked. Every wall she'd built crumbled in that single word. Richard laughed. Hollow, defeated, perfect. The janitor arrives to save the day. This is pathetic, Catherine Vichau. Marcus walked to the table with the calm of someone who'd faced worse than corporate boardrooms. Combat zones taught you what real danger looked like. Placed both hands flat on the mahogany surface. Looked Richard Blackwood dead in the eye. Sir, I suggest you sit down and wait for the police. And who are you to suggest anything? Marcus pulled out his phone. Held it up. I'm the man who recorded your confession. Every eye in the room went wide. I was in the hallway. Door was cracked. Phone was recording. Every word. Richard's face showed total defeat, the kind that comes when you realize your own arrogance destroyed you. 2 Seattle police officers entered, badges visible, hands near their weapons. We got a 911 call about embezzlement and possible conspiracy to commit murder. Catherine stood, drew herself to full height. Yes, I made the call. This man, Richard Blackwood, has been embezzling from Sterling Biotech for 5 years, and he knowingly allowed my husband to board a plane he knew would crash. The officers moved forward. Richard Blackwood, you're under arrest for embezzlement and conspiracy to commit negligent homicide. You have the right to remain silent. The handcuffs clicked. Cold metal, final. Richard looked at Catherine as they let him out. You're making a mistake. You can't run this company alone. You'll fail. Catherine's voice was ice and fire. I've been running it alone for 5 years, Richard. I just didn't realize it until now. Richard turned to Marcus. Final desperate cruelty. You're just a janitor. You think you belong in this world? Marcus's face stayed calm. The calm of men who'd seen real evil and weren't impressed by boardroom villains. No, sir. But I belong with the people I protect. The door closed behind them. The boardroom sat in stunned silence. Then chaos. Everyone talking at once. Questions. Shock. Fear about what this meant for the company. Catherine stood, voice cutting through noise. This meeting is adjourned. James, I need the board's full support for an emergency audit. Dr. Moore, I need you to chair a special committee. Jessica, call our attorneys. We're cooperating fully with federal investigators. Orders issued. Purpose restored. The CEO mask back in place. Everyone filed out, leaving Catherine and Marcus alone in the vast boardroom as evening light slanted through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seattle. Catherine sat in her chair, stared at nothing. Marcus stood by the window, giving her space. Long silence. The kind that's comfortable despite the trauma, or maybe because of it. How did you know? Marcus turned. Ma'am, how did you know to come? Grace called. Told me about the vote, and I couldn't let you fight alone. Why, I'm just your employer. You barely know me. That's not true. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. The first honest emotion she'd shown since Andrew's funeral. Isn't it? I've barely spoken to you in 5 years. I didn't even know you had a daughter until 2 weeks ago. I didn't know you were a veteran. I didn't know anything because I didn't care. I hired you, paid you, and ignored you, Mrs. Sterling. My daughter spoke to you first, Marcus. Not me, their mother, because you were there and I wasn't. Marcus knelt beside her chair, the same way he'd knelt beside wounded Marines. Presence mattered more than words. You want to know what I see when I look at you? Catherine looked at him through tears. I see a woman who lost her husband and didn't break, who built an empire while raising 2 daughters with disabilities, who worked so hard because she was terrified that if she stopped, she'd fall apart. Catherine sobbed, raw, ugly, the kind of crying she'd forbidden herself for 5 years. I see a woman exactly like me. Marcus's voice was gentle. When Sarah died, I ran, worked 3, told myself I was providing, but really I was hiding. Because if I stopped, if I let myself feel how much I missed her, I'd drown. Catherine listened, recognized herself in every word. Zoe was 2. She needed me. But I gave her schedules and routines instead of myself. Marcus's eyes grew distant, memory pulling him back. It took Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, to tell me, that baby doesn't need another dollar, Marcus. She needs her daddy. The words hung in the air, truth that couldn't be argued. So I quit 2 of my jobs. Took this one, flexible hours, lower pay, but I was home, present, and your daughter got better. Marcus shook his head. No, Zoe's cerebral palsy didn't change, but I did. I stopped trying to fix her body and started loving her exactly as she is. His hand touched Catherine's gently. Mrs. Sterling, Catherine, your daughters don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be there. Catherine's walls crumbled completely. I'm so tired, Marcus. I know. For 5 years, I've held everything together. The company, the house, the girls' medical care. I thought if I controlled everything, I could prevent more loss. Her voice broke. But I can't control life. I couldn't save Andrew. I can't cure my daughters. I can't. She looked at Marcus, raw, honest, terrified. I'm afraid that if I let go, if I stop being the Ice Queen CEO, I'll disappear. Marcus's hand covered hers. You won't disappear. You'll become who you really are. Their faces were close, inches apart, his hand on hers, her green eyes locked on his brown eyes. The boardroom faded. The world narrowed to breathing and heartbeat and the weight of unspoken things. Both pulled back. Not yet. Too soon. Too much had happened. I should go. The girls, yes, of course. Marcus stood, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. Catherine, yes, you're not alone anymore. The door closed. Catherine sat in the empty boardroom as Seattle's lights flickered on below. The city she'd conquered, the empire she'd built, all of it suddenly felt less important than 5 words from a man in an ill-fitting suit. Catherine arrived home at 11 p.m. The house was dark except for soft light from the twins' room. Music drifted down the hallway. Andrew's lullaby, "You Are My Sunshine." She opened the door carefully. Marcus sat on the floor between Lily and Rose's beds, singing softly. The twins were asleep but smiling, peaceful in a way Catherine rarely saw. He looked up, saw her, started to stand. She held up a hand. Don't. Catherine sat on the floor beside him, kicked off her Louboutin heels, let them fall with soft thuds on the carpet, sat cross-legged in her designer suit on the floor of her daughter's room. Together they watched the girls sleep. Their hands touched on the carpet between them. Neither pulled away. The moment stretched. Fragile. Perfect. In that instant, sitting on the floor of a children's bedroom, two broken people found something they'd both stopped believing in. Hope. But they didn't know that the hardest test was still coming, and it would arrive with the storm of the century. The morning after the board meeting, Seattle woke to sunshine. Deceptive. Calm. But meteorologists were tracking something unusual. A massive storm system. Convergence of 3 weather fronts. The kind that happened once in 50 years. This could be the strongest storm to hit western Washington in decades. Winds gusting up to 90 miles per hour. Widespread power outages expected. Residents should shelter in place. Marcus fed Zoe breakfast in their apartment. Oatmeal, 1 careful spoonful at a time. His phone rang. Catherine. Marcus, have you seen the weather report? Yes, ma'am. Storm tonight. I want you and Zoe to stay at the estate. It's safer. Backup generators, medical equipment if needed. Marcus hesitated. Ma'am, that's not necessary. Please, I'd feel better knowing you're both safe. He looked at Zoe, then at the window where dark clouds gathered on the horizon. All right, we'll be there by 5. Marcus packed their things, 1 bag, Zoe's medical supplies, her favorite stuffed dolphin purple with button eyes worn soft from 3 years of love. Mrs. Patterson appeared in the doorway. Knowing eyes. You're going to her. It's just for the storm. Mrs. Patterson smiled. Marcus, baby, I've known you 10 years. I see the way you talk about her. Marcus paused. Mrs. P, it's not like that. Mm-hmm. And that's why you pressed your shirt 3 times this morning. Marcus couldn't help but smile. Small, real. Mrs. Patterson's face grew serious. That woman needs you, Marcus. Not just for her babies, for herself. Don't run from it. I'm not running. I'm just being professional. Mrs. Patterson touched his cheek with weathered hands that had delivered babies and held dying patients and knew the difference between duty and love. Sarah would want you to be happy again, baby. She wouldn't want you living like a ghost. Marcus's eyes filled. 3 years and her name still hurt. But maybe the pain was different now. Less sharp. More like an old wound that had finally started to heal. By the time Marcus arrived at the Sterling estate, the sky had turned dark green. Ominous. Wind bent the oak trees at unnatural angles. Catherine met them at the door. Casual clothes, jeans, soft cream sweater, hair down in waves around her shoulders. Marcus had never seen her like this. She looked like a woman instead of a CEO. Beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with designer clothes and everything to do with vulnerability. Thank God you're here. The girls had been asking for Zoe all day. Inside, Lily and Rose sat in their adaptive chairs, waiting. When they saw Zoe, both girls' faces transformed. Pure joy. Zoe, play. Marcus pushed Zoe's wheelchair close. The 3 girls made their sounds, not quite words, but communication. Understanding that went beyond language. Grace helped settle everyone. Catherine hovered. Nervous. The storm forecast had worsened. now predicting hurricane-force winds, possible tornado warnings. The house staff had been sent home early. Just Grace, Catherine, Marcus, and the three girls remained in the massive estate. That evening, Catherine attempted to cook dinner, attempted being the operative word. The smoke alarm shrieked. Catherine grabbed the pan of burnt chicken, waved a towel at the detector while cursing under her breath. Marcus appeared, took the pan gently, opened windows, laughed, actually laughed. "Ma'am, have you ever actually cooked?" Catherine's face flushed, embarrassed. "I had a chef, always. But I wanted to do something normal, something a mother would do. Here, let me show you." He stood behind her, guided her hands to a fresh pan. Lower heat, gentle. Cooking isn't about force, it's about patience. Catherine was intensely aware of his presence, his chest near her back, his hands over hers, the warmth radiating from him and his breath stirring her hair. Like this. Her voice came out softer than intended. Perfect. Their hands moved together, stirring sauce that actually smelled good. The moment stretched. Intimate. Domestic. Everything Catherine's life had never been. From the doorway, Grace watched and smiled, went back to the girls without interrupting. They ate together. All of them. Marcus, Catherine, Lily, Rose, Zoe, and Grace. 6 people around a table meant for 16. But it felt full in a way the mansion never had. Zoe knocked over her cup. Water flooded the table. Instead of stress laughter. Real. Unforced. Jessica had stopped by earlier with legal documents for Catherine to sign. She stayed for dinner, watched her sister laugh for the first time in 5 years. "So Marcus, Kate says you're former military Navy." 8 years. "What made you leave?" Marcus looked at Zoe. "My daughter needed me more than the Navy did." Catherine watched him. Soft eyes, Jessica noticed, leaned close to her sister. "I like him," Catherine whispered back. "Jess, stop. I'm just saying. First time I've seen you smile in 5 years." Catherine didn't respond, but her hand moved unconsciously to touch her face, checking if the smile was still there. 8 p.m., the storm hit. Windows rattled, rain hammered glass like thrown gravel. Wind howled with sounds that seemed almost alive. Predatory. The lights flickered. Once. Twice. Marcus checked his weather app. Red warnings covered the screen. Extreme wind gusts 80+ miles per hour. Power outages likely. Shelter in place. Possible structural damage. Grace moved toward the emergency supplies. "I'm going to get the flashlights." The lights died. Total darkness. In that darkness, 3 voices cried out. Mama Rose's voice, terrified. Mama Lily's voice, desperate. Daddy Zoe's voice, panicked. Thunder cracked. Massive. So loud the house shook. Windows rattled in their frames. All 3 girls screamed. Pure terror, the kind children feel when their world becomes chaos and they need the adults to make it safe again. Marcus moved on instinct, military training, navigate by memory. He found Zoe's wheelchair in seconds, lifted her, held her against his chest. "I'm here, sunshine, Daddy's here." Catherine fumbled for Lily and Rose, grabbed them both, pulled them close. Grace found flashlights, turned them on, weak beams cutting through darkness. The girls were still crying, not the kind you could soothe with words, the kind that came from primal fear. Marcus started singing, "You Are My Sunshine." His voice steady despite the chaos. Zoe calmed slightly, still whimpering but listening. Catherine tried to join. Her voice shook, off-key, desperate. Lily and Rose didn't calm. They cried harder, reaching toward Marcus, toward the voice they trusted more than their mothers. The truth hit Catherine like a physical blow. When her daughters were terrified, they wanted him. Not her. Marcus, her voice broke. "What do I do?" "Sing with me. They need to hear us together." Catherine tried, found the melody. Their voices blended, his steady, hers fragile. But together, slowly Lily and Rose quieted, not because of Catherine alone, because Marcus was there too. The storm raged, trees crashed outside. Something heavy hit the roof. The house groaned under assault. Grace lit candles. The emergency generator kicked in. Partial power, enough for lights in essential rooms. They moved to the living room, brought blankets, pillows. made a nest on the floor in front of the fireplace that Marcus got burning. 3 girls, 2 adults, 1 nurse, huddled together while nature's fury tried to tear the world apart. Marcus held Zoe, Catherine held Lily and Rose, but the twins kept reaching for him, wanting both, needing both. Finally, Marcus shifted, sat beside Catherine, close, put his arm around both twins. Catherine's shoulder pressed against his chest. They sat like that, a family that wasn't a family, protecting 3 children from a storm that threatened everything. The power grid failed across Bellevue. 11 p.m. The backup generator handled essential systems, but heating was minimal. Temperature dropped. Marcus added more wood to the fire. Catherine found more blankets. They cocooned the girls. Grace dozed in an armchair, exhausted from the emotional toll. Catherine and Marcus sat on the floor, backs against the sofa, watching the fire. The girls finally asleep between them. "I'm sorry." Catherine's whisper was barely audible. "For what? For everything. For not seeing you. For not being the mother my daughters needed. For building walls so high I locked everyone out." Marcus was quiet, letting her speak. "When Andrew died, I thought if I controlled everything, I could prevent more pain. But I just created different pain. Loneliness. Distance. My daughters grew up with a mother who was physically present but emotionally gone." Marcus's voice was gentle. "You did what you thought you had to do. Survival looks different for everyone." Catherine turned to look at him. Firelight cast shadows across his face, highlighted the scar on his temple, the one she'd never asked about. "What happened to your leg? The injury that ended your career?" Marcus's jaw tightened, memory pulling him somewhere dark. Damascus, hospital bombing, 3 children trapped under rubble. I got them out. Building collapsed, crushed my leg, nerve damage. Can still walk, but not well enough for combat deployment. You saved them. I did my job. No. Catherine's voice was firm. You sacrificed your future for children who weren't yours. That's not a job. That's heroism. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Don't make me into something I'm not. I'm just a man who tries to do right when I can. That's exactly what makes you a hero. You don't see it. The fire crackled. Wind screamed outside. But inside their circle of light, something else was happening. Walls crumbling. Truth emerging. Catherine's hand found Marcus's. Held it. He didn't pull away. Thank you. For coming today. For recording Richard's confession. For protecting me even though you didn't have to. Marcus's thumb brushed across her knuckles. Small movement. Huge significance. I'll always protect you. You and the girls. Because he stopped. The words too big, too true, too terrifying to say out loud. Because you matter. All of you matter. It wasn't the full truth, but it was true enough. Catherine leaned her head against his shoulder. Just for a moment. Just to feel what it was like to not be alone. Marcus let her. Didn't pull away. Didn't make it awkward. Just let her rest. They sat like that until dawn, while the storm spent its fury against the world outside, while 3 little girls slept safe in the circle of their protection, while 2 broken people found something neither had expected. Each other. Morning came. Gray light through windows. The storm had passed, leaving debris and broken branches, but the house stood intact. Catherine woke with her head still on Marcus's shoulder. He'd stayed all night, hadn't moved. Let her sleep. She sat up, embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize, you needed rest. The girl stirred. Waking, Zoe blinked at Marcus. 3 blinks. I love you. Lily and Rose stretched, saw Catherine and Marcus together, smiled, like this was exactly how the world should look. Grace woke, stretched, went to make coffee on the gas stove since power was still out across the region. Jessica called, checking on them. Catherine assured her they were fine, better than fine. Marcus should leave, go back to his apartment, check on Mrs. Patterson. But he didn't want to. The estate felt right. The girls felt right. Catherine felt right. And that terrified him. Because the last time he'd let himself feel this way, he'd lost everything. Catherine watched him gather Zoe's things, saw the walls going back up, the professional distance returning. Marcus, you don't have to go. The roads are still dangerous. Fallen trees, power lines down. I need to check on Mrs. Patterson. Make sure she's all right. Of course, but come back. Please, the girls will want to see Zoe. Catherine. He said her name, not Mrs. Sterling. Catherine. First time ever. She looked at him, waiting. This what happened last night. We can't confuse gratitude with something else. Catherine's face showed hurt. Quickly masked. I'm not confused. Good, because I work for you. There's a line. He was running. She recognized it because she'd been running for 5 years. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything except... Except what? Except for you to stop being afraid. The words hit. True. Undeniable. Marcus's face showed conflict. I can't lose anyone else, Catherine. I can't go through that again. No one's asking you to, but you can't live your whole life protecting yourself from pain. That's not living. That's just existing. Marcus looked at Zoe, at Lily and Rose, at Catherine. Everything he wanted and everything he feared wrapped up in this moment. I'll come back later, after I check on Mrs. P. He left. Catherine stood at the window watching his old Toyota navigate the debris-strewn driveway. Grace appeared beside him. He's scared. I know. But he'll come back. Men like Marcus don't run far. They just need to convince themselves it's okay to feel. Catherine touched the window. Left a fingerprint on the glass. How do you know? Because I've seen the way he looks at you, and the way you look at him. And that's not something people walk away from easily. Mrs. Patterson's apartment was intact. Minor damage. She'd weathered the storm with her usual resilience. Marcus helped her clean up. Told her about the night. About Catherine. About his fear. Mrs. Patterson listened, then spoke with the wisdom of 70 years. You know what your problem is, baby. You think loving someone means you'll lose them. But the real loss is never loving at all. Sarah would be ashamed of you right now. Marcus flinched. Mrs. P. She would. That girl loved life, loved you, loved Zoe. And she'd be furious to see you hiding from the best thing that's happened to you in 3 years. Catherine isn't the best thing. She's my employer. Mrs. Patterson snorted. Boy, I may be old, but I'm not blind. That woman looks at you like you hung the moon, and you look at her like she's the sun. Now stop being stupid and go back there. Marcus left, drove through damaged streets, past fallen trees and power lines, past people emerging from homes to assess damage, and realized Mrs. Patterson was right. He was being stupid. He was being afraid, and fear never saved anyone. He turned the car around, headed back to the Sterling estate, back to Catherine, back to the possibility of something that terrified him more than combat ever had, the possibility of being happy again. Part 3. Marcus pulled up to the Sterling estate just after noon. The gates opened automatically. Someone had been watching for him. Catherine stood on the front steps, bare feet, jeans. One of Andrew's old Stanford sweatshirts that she'd kept hidden in the back of her closet for 5 years. Hair messy from the storm and sleepless night. She looked more beautiful than any boardroom version of herself ever had. You came back. Her voice held relief in something else. Hope, I did. Marcus got out of the car, lifted Zoe from her wheelchair in the back seat. Catherine walked down the steps, met him halfway. For a long moment, they just stood there. Man, woman, child between them, words unnecessary. Then Lily and Rose appeared in the doorway with Grace, saw Marcus, started making their excited sounds. Zoe heard them, made her happy sound back. The girls had their own language now. 3 children who the world said would never communicate, building connection in ways that transcended speech. Come inside. I made lunch. Catherine's voice was tentative, offering more than food. Marcus followed her into the house that no longer felt like a mansion, just a home where people he cared about lived. The kitchen smelled like burnt grilled cheese and hope. I tried. Grace helped. It's edible. Probably. Catherine's laugh was self-deprecating, real. The Ice Queen completely melted. They ate together, sandwiches that were slightly charred but tasted perfect because of who made them. The girls played on blankets on the floor. Grace gave them space. Went to check on storm damage in other parts of the house. Marcus watched Catherine help Rose hold her cup. Saw patience he'd never witnessed in 5 years of working for her. Saw tenderness that had been there all along, just buried under grief and fear. You're different. Catherine looked up. Different how present. Like you're actually here instead of going through motions. She set down Rose's cup carefully. Last night during the storm when the girls were crying and I couldn't comfort them, I realized something. I've been so afraid of failing as a mother that I stopped trying to be one. Marcus understood. I did the same thing. Worked myself to exhaustion so I wouldn't have to face what I'd lost. But you changed. You figured it out. Marcus shook his head. I'm still figuring it out, every day. But I decided that trying and failing was better than not trying at all. Catherine's eyes filled. I want to try, really try, not just with the girls, with everything. She looked at him, meaning clear. Marcus felt the weight of that look, the invitation, the vulnerability, everything he wanted and everything that terrified him. Catherine, her phone rang, interrupting. She glanced at the screen. Jessica answered. Jess what? Her face changed, went pale. Kate, turn on the news. Channel 7, now. Catherine grabbed the remote, turned on the television mounted in the kitchen. Breaking news coverage. Richard Blackwood's arrest. But that wasn't the story. The story was Marcus. We've learned that the man who provided key evidence against Sterling Biotech CFO Richard Blackwood is Marcus Washington, a former Navy corpsman who works as maintenance staff at CEO Catherine Sterling's private residence. Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. The broadcast showed Marcus's military photo. Younger, in dress blues, combat medals gleaming on his chest. Questions are emerging about the nature of the relationship between Sterling and Washington, particularly given Washington's recent change in duties from janitorial work to child care provider for Sterling's disabled twin daughters. Marcus stood, face hard. This is what I was afraid of. Catherine muted the television. Marcus, it's just gossip. It's not just gossip. It's your reputation, your company, everything you've built. So what? You want to leave, go back to being invisible. Her voice rose, anger covering fear. I want to protect you from this, from people twisting something good into something ugly. I don't need protection. I need... She stopped. Couldn't say it. Too raw. Too new. What? What do you need? The question hung between them. Loaded. Dangerous. Before Catherine could answer, the doorbell rang. Grace appeared. Ma'am, there are reporters at the gate. 6 news vans. They're asking for comment on your relationship with Mr. Washington. Catherine's face showed fury. Call security. Have them removed from the property. They're on public easement. Legally, we can't. Then I'll go talk to them myself. Marcus grabbed her arm gently. Don't. That's what they want. A reaction. Emotion. Something they can twist. Then what do? We wait. Let the story die. I'll leave. Go back to my apartment. Keep my distance for a while until number... Catherine's voice was steel. You're not leaving. Not because of gossip. Not because people don't understand. Catherine, be reasonable. I'm done being reasonable. I'm done living my life based on what other people think or expect or approve of. Her voice broke. Marcus, for 5 years, I've been who everyone needed me to be. The strong CEO, the competent mother, the ice queen who never cried. And I'm tired. I'm so tired of pretending I don't need help, that I don't need... She stopped again, turned away. Marcus moved closer. What do you need, Catherine? Say it. You. I need you. The words came out barely above a whisper, but they shattered the last walls between them. Marcus's hand touched her shoulder, turned her to face him. I'm here. Not as an employee, not as the janitor, not as Catherine. He said her name, made her look at him. I'm here as a man who cares about you, who sees you, who wants you to be happy. Then stay. Please, don't let the world push us apart before we even know what this is. Marcus looked at her, at the girls playing on the floor, at the life he could have if he was brave enough. All right, I'll stay. Catherine's face showed relief, then something else. Determination. And I'm going to make a statement to the press right now. Marcus started to protest. She held up her hand, not to defend us, to claim us. She walked to the front door. Marcus followed, trying to stop her. Catherine, wait. She opened the door, stepped onto the front porch. 6 news crews surged forward. Cameras up, microphones extended. Marcus stood in the doorway. watching, heart pounding. Catherine Sterling stood tall, no makeup, messy hair, sweatshirt and jeans, looking more human than the public had ever seen her. My name is Catherine Sterling. I'm the CEO of Sterling Biotech, and I'm making this statement once. I won't be taking questions. The cameras focused. Silence fell. Yesterday, my CFO, Richard Blackwood, was arrested for embezzlement and conspiracy related to my husband's death 5 years ago. The evidence was provided by Marcus Washington, a former Navy corpsman who has worked for my family for 5 years. She paused, looked directly into the cameras. Marcus Washington saved my daughter's life 2 weeks ago when she had a seizure. He has helped my twin daughters who were diagnosed as nonverbal speak for the first time. He is a decorated veteran who sacrificed his military career to care for his disabled daughter. And yes, he works for me. Catherine's voice grew stronger. I'm making this statement because I know what you're going to write, what you're going to insinuate. So let me be clear. Marcus Washington is the most honorable man I've ever met, and whatever relationship exists between us is no one's business but ours. Reporters shouted questions. She ignored them. I built Sterling Biotech with my late husband to help people, to create medical devices that save lives. That mission hasn't changed. My company hasn't changed. What has changed is that I've remembered something I'd forgotten, that the most important thing I can do is be present for my daughters. She looked back at Marcus. He stood frozen. Watching her claim him publicly, defend him publicly, choose him publicly. So write what you want. Question my judgment. Speculate about my personal life. I don't care anymore. I'm done living for the approval of people who don't know me. Catherine turned and walked back inside, closed the door on the chaos. Marcus stared at her. What did you just do? What I should have done 5 years ago. Stop caring what everyone else thinks. Catherine, I know what I did. I chose you. I chose us. I chose to stop hiding. She was shaking, adrenaline crashing. Marcus pulled her into his arms. First time. Real embrace. No emergency. No storm. Just two people holding each other because they needed to. Catherine buried her face in his chest, breathed him in, felt his heartbeat. Steady. Real. I'm scared. Her whisper was muffled against his shirt. Me too. What if this doesn't work? Marcus pulled back slightly, looked at her. What if it does? The question hung there. Possibility, hope, terror, all wrapped together. Then we figure it out. Together. Catherine nodded. Together. The news coverage exploded. Sterling CEO's secret relationship. Billionaire and the janitor. Questions about judgment. But also Navy hero saves CEO's daughter. Decorated veteran working as janitor to care for disabled child. CEO defends employee who exposed embezzlement. Public opinion split. Some criticized Catherine. Others praised her. Some called Marcus opportunistic. Others called him heroic. Sterling Biotech's stock fluctuated. Board members called emergency meetings. Investors demanded reassurance. Catherine handled it all with new strength. She'd stopped performing, started living. And somehow that made her more effective, not less. She called board meetings herself, addressed concerns directly, showed financial projections, proved the company was stronger than ever, despite, or perhaps because of recent events. Dr. Patricia Moore became her strongest ally. The woman who'd cast the deciding vote now championed Catherine publicly. I've known Catherine Sterling for 8 years. I've never seen her more focused, more present, or more effective than she is right now. If this board wants to question her judgment based on her personal life rather than her professional results, then I question this board's judgment. The tide turned, slowly, but it turned. Meanwhile, Marcus dealt with his own case. News crews found his apartment, interviewed neighbors. Mrs. Patterson became a media darling. That boy raised his daughter alone for 3 years, worked himself half to death to give her everything she needed. Never complained, never quit. And now people wanted to tear him down because he found someone who appreciates him. Shame on all of you. Her words went viral. Public sentiment shifted further. The story evolved from scandal to romance, from inappropriate relationship to modern fairy tale. But inside the Sterling estate, away from cameras and commentary, something quieter was happening. Marcus moved into the West Wing with Zoe, not because of optics or convenience, because Catherine asked him to, because the girls wanted Zoe close, because he wanted to be there. 3 bedrooms, private living room, small kitchen, space for a family that was slowly becoming a family. Mrs. Patterson visited often, helped with the girls, watched Marcus and Catherine navigate new territory with the wisdom of someone who'd seen love in all its forms. One evening, 2 weeks after the press conference, Catherine found Marcus in the garden. Zoe, Lily, and Rose were inside with Grace. Bedtime routine. Marcus sat on a bench under the oak tree, staring at nothing, thinking everything. Catherine sat beside him, didn't speak, just presence. After a while, Marcus broke the silence. I got a call today from the Navy. Catherine's heart jumped. And they want me to come speak at a recruiting event about my service, about Zoe, about why I left and what I'm doing now. That's wonderful. Is it? Because they also made it clear they heard about us, about you and me, and they wanted to make sure I wasn't using my service record for personal gain. Catherine's face showed anger. It's fair, from their perspective. War hero hooks up with billionaire boss. It looks opportunistic. You know that's not what this is. Do I? The question was quiet but heavy. Catherine turned to face him. Marcus, look at me. He did. Do you think you're using me? No. Do you think I'm using you? No. Then what anyone else thinks doesn't matter. Marcus wanted to believe that. But doubt had roots deeper than logic. Catherine, I'm a janitor. You're a CEO. Your world and mine. Stop. Just stop. Her voice was firm. You're not a janitor. You're a Navy corpsman, a father, a man who saves lives. The fact that you clean floors to provide for your daughter doesn't diminish you. It elevates you. Society doesn't see it that way. Then society is wrong. She grabbed his hand. Marcus, I spent 5 years caring what society thought, what the board thought, what investors thought, and I was miserable. Now I care what my daughters think, what I think, what you think, and that's it. Marcus looked at their joined hands. What do you think? I think you're the best man I've ever known. I think my daughters are better because of you. I think I'm better because of you. And I think if we let other people's opinions destroy this before we even see what it could be, we're both cowards. The word stung, intentionally. We've both lost people we loved, Catherine. That makes you careful, not a coward. No, careful is protecting yourself from real danger. I'm protecting myself from the possibility of happiness. That's cowardice, she stood, pulled him up with her. So I'm making a choice right now. I'm choosing to be brave. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing us. And I'm choosing to believe that love is worth the risk. The word hung between them. Love. First time either had said it. Marcus's breath caught. Catherine, you don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same way. But I need you to know I love you. I love who you are. I love who I am when I'm with you, and I'm not running anymore. Marcus pulled her close, kissed her. First time. Real. No hesitation. No doubt. The kiss was everything. Desperation and tenderness. Fear and hope. Everything they'd been too afraid to admit. When they pulled apart, both were crying. I love you too. God help me, I love you too. Catherine laughed through tears. God already helped us. He brought us together. They stood in the garden as darkness fell. 2 broken people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their separate griefs, who'd built something new from the pieces. Inside, 3 little girls slept peacefully. Zoe in her room, Lily and Rose in theirs, all of them safe, all of them loved. And for the first time in 5 years, Catherine Sterling believed that maybe, just maybe, happiness was possible after all. 2 months later, the investigation concluded. Richard Blackwood, facing federal charges, made a deal. Full confession in exchange for reduced sentence. The confession revealed more than embezzlement. It revealed years of manipulation, sabotage, slow poisoning of Catherine's confidence through subtle undermining. Every declined deal he'd blamed on her poor judgment, he'd sabotaged the negotiations. Every board member who questioned her, he'd fed them carefully constructed doubts. Every moment she'd felt like she was failing, he'd engineered it. Andrew's death wasn't murder in the legal sense, but Richard had known about the mechanical failure, had access to fix it, had chosen not to, hoping Andrew would die, hoping Catherine would crumble, hoping he could sweep in and take everything. The revelation was devastating and liberating. Catherine sat in her lawyer's office, listening to the full confession. Jessica beside her, Marcus waiting outside. When it ended, Catherine felt something unexpected. Relief. She wasn't crazy, wasn't incompetent, wasn't failing. She'd been sabotaged for 5 years by someone she'd trusted, and she'd survived anyway. That's strength. Outside, Marcus saw her face when she emerged, saw the weight lifting. He didn't ask, just pulled her close, let her break, let her cry, let her release 5 years of doubt and self-recrimination. I'm not broken, her whisper was fierce. I know. I'm not weak. Never thought you were. I'm enough. You're more than enough. You always were. That night, Catherine called a family meeting. Marcus, the girls Grace, Jessica, Mrs. Patterson, everyone who mattered. They gathered in the living room, fire crackling, girls playing on the floor. Catherine stood, nervous, determined. I've been thinking a lot about family, about what it means, about who gets to be called family. She looked around the room. For 5 years, I thought family was something you lost and could never get back, that Andrew died and took my chance at family with him. Her voice grew stronger. But I was wrong. Family isn't about blood or marriage certificates or traditional structures. Family is about showing up, about choosing each other every day, about love that doesn't quit. She walked to Marcus, took his hand. Marcus Washington, you've shown me what family really means. You've loved my daughters when I was too afraid to. You've protected me when I didn't know I needed protecting. You've seen me at my worst and somehow made me believe I could be better. Marcus's eyes filled. Catherine, let me finish. She knelt down, in front of everyone, in front of God, witnesses and 3 little girls who were the reason for everything. I'm not proposing marriage, not yet. We're not ready, but I am proposing something else. She pulled out a document. Legal papers. I want to make this official. I want you and Zoe to be legally part of this family. I want to adopt Zoe. I want us to co-parent all 3 girls. I want... She choked up, couldn't finish. Marcus knelt with her, took the papers with shaking hands. You want to adopt my daughter? I want to be her mother. If you'll let me, if she'll let me. I know I can't replace Sarah. I would never try. But I love Zoe. I love all 3 of these girls. And I want to give them something I never had, a family that chooses to stay. Marcus looked at Zoe, at this woman offering to love his daughter, at the possibility of sharing the burden he'd carried alone for 3 years. Zoe blinked 3 times. I love you. She was looking at Catherine. Catherine broke, crawled to Zoe, gathered her into her arms. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. Lily and Rose watched, then simultaneously Mama, Daddy, looking at both Catherine and Marcus, claiming both. The room erupted in tears and laughter, Mrs. Patterson crying openly, Grace wiping her eyes, Jessica recording everything on her phone because this moment needed to be remembered. Marcus pulled Catherine and all 3 girls into his arms, a tangle of limbs and love and hope. Yes, yes to all of it. The legal process took weeks. Adoption proceedings, co-parenting agreements, restructuring of Marcus's employment to reflect his actual role. Catherine made him Director of Family Services, $64,000 salary, benefits, title that reflected his value. Marcus protested. Catherine, I don't need, you're right. You don't need a title, but our daughters need to see that the man who loves them is respected, that his work has value, that he's not less than anyone. She touched his face. And I need the world to know that you're not my employee. You're my partner. The adoption of Zoe finalized in November. Judge Maria Santos presiding. The courtroom full of people who'd become family. Ms. Sterling, do you understand that adoption is permanent? That you're taking full legal responsibility for this child? Catherine looked at Zoe, at this beautiful girl who taught her that love wasn't about biology. I do, Your Honor. And Mr. Washington, you're comfortable with this arrangement. Marcus looked at Catherine, at the woman who'd chosen his daughter, who'd seen value where society saw burden. More than comfortable, Your Honor. Grateful. Judge Santos smiled. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Washington, I grant this petition for adoption. Zoe Washington is now the legal daughter of both Marcus Washington and Catherine Sterling. The gavel fell. Zoe squealed. Lily and Rose clapped. The courtroom erupted in applause. Catherine held Zoe, officially her daughter now, not by birth but by choice, and somehow that made it more meaningful. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. The story had followed them. But the tone had changed. CEO adopts employee's disabled daughter. Modern family defies convention. Love wins. Catherine didn't give a statement, just held her daughters, all three of them, and smiled. The photo went viral. Catherine Sterling, billionaire CEO in casual clothes, holding three little girls. Marcus beside her, all of them laughing. It became the image that redefined her. Not the ice queen, not the grieving widow, the woman who'd chosen love over fear. December brought unexpected closure. Sarah's accident, the one that killed Marcus's wife 3 years ago, came back into focus. A detective called Marcus. "We've reopened your wife's case. New evidence suggests the brake line failure wasn't accidental." Marcus felt the world tilt. What, someone cut the brake lines? We have security footage from a parking garage and financial records showing Richard Blackwood paid someone $5,000 the day before her death. Catherine was there when Marcus got the news. Watched him process. Watched grief turn to rage, turn to devastation. He killed Sarah too. Marcus's voice was hollow. She worked at Sterling Biotech. In accounting, she must have found something. Evidence of the embezzlement, and he killed her. Catherine held him while he broke. While 3 years of carefully constructed acceptance shattered. While guilt consumed him. "I should have known. Should have investigated. Should have, you couldn't have known. I'm a corpsman. I'm trained to see things, and I missed it. I let him kill my wife and walk free for 3 years." Marcus listened to me. Catherine grabbed his face. Forced him to look at her. "This is not your fault. Richard Blackwood is a murderer. He manipulated everyone. You're a victim, not a failure." But Marcus couldn't hear it. Not yet. The guilt was too loud. He withdrew. Pulled away. Went through motions but wasn't present. The light in his eyes dimmed. Catherine gave him space but not too much. Loved him but didn't smother. Waited. Mrs. Patterson helped. Talked to Marcus the way only she could. About grief, about guilt, about the difference between the two. "You can't carry Sarah's death, baby. That belongs to Richard Blackwood. What you carry is her love, her memory, the daughter she gave you. Let the rest go." It took weeks. Therapy helped. Catherine went with him. They worked through their separate griefs together. And slowly Marcus came back. Not the same, changed, but whole. Christmas approached, the girls' first Christmas where everyone was together. Catherine went overboard. Decorations everywhere. Tree that touched the ceiling. Presents that filled half the living room. Marcus laughed. "This is too much." There's no such thing as too much when you've spent 5 years doing too little. She was right. This wasn't about gifts. It was about celebration, about family, about joy she'd denied herself for too long. Christmas morning, the girls opened presents, adaptive toys, special equipment, things that made their lives easier and happier. But the best gift was each other. Lily spoke more every day. Rose too. Full sentences now. Their voices weak but determined. Zoe made more sounds, communicated more clearly, thrived with 2 parents instead of 1. They were healing, all of them. Catherine and Marcus gave each other simple gifts, a watch for him, engraved "For the man who gave me time," a necklace for her, with 3 charms, 3 little girls. But the real gift was the moment, the family, the life they'd built from broken pieces. That night, after the girls were asleep, Catherine and Marcus sat by the fire, exhausted, happy. "This is the best Christmas I've had in 6 years." Catherine's voice was soft. "Me too." Marcus pulled her close. "Thank you for what? For choosing us, for fighting for us, for not giving up when it would have been easier." Catherine smiled. "Easier isn't better. You taught me that." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind only possible between people who'd survived hard things together. "I want to marry you." Marcus said it quietly. No fanfare, just truth. Catherine's breath caught. "What? Not today, not even this year. But someday." When we're ready, when the girls are ready, I want to marry you. Catherine turned to face him. Why? Because I love you. Because you're my best friend. Because I want to spend the rest of my life choosing you every single day. Tears streamed down her face. Yes. Yes what? Yes to someday. Yes to marriage. Yes to forever. They kissed, soft, sweet. Promise the future stretched ahead. Unknown, uncertain, but together. And that was enough. 6 months later, the story came full circle. Sterling Biotech launched a new initiative, the Andrew Sterling Memorial Foundation, focused on providing medical care and equipment for children with disabilities. Marcus ran it, used his medical knowledge and personal experience to identify families in need, to provide resources, to give hope. Catherine funded it. But more importantly, she participated, met families, listened to stories, saw herself in their struggles. The foundation's first event was a gala, black tie, Seattle's elite, but also families with disabled children. Marines Marcus had served with, Navy veterans, Mrs. Patterson in a beautiful dress. Catherine gave the keynote speech. Marcus beside her on stage. 5 years ago, I lost my husband. I thought I had lost everything. My partner, my hope, my ability to love. I built walls so high that even my own daughters couldn't reach me. She looked at Marcus. Then a man I'd barely noticed for 5 years saved my daughter's life. And in doing so, he saved mine. The room was silent, attentive. This foundation exists because love is stronger than loss. Because families come in all forms. Because disability doesn't mean inability. And because sometimes the people we overlook are the ones we need most. She held up her hand. Marcus took it. Marcus Washington taught me that heroism isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, consistent, showing up every day to love people who can't always love you back. That's the truest heroism I know. Applause filled the ballroom. But Catherine wasn't done. So tonight, in front of everyone who matters, I want to ask a question. She turned to Marcus, pulled out a ring, got down on one knee. The room gasped. Marcus Washington, you've given me everything. Love, family, hope, purpose. Will you give me one more thing? Will you marry me? Marcus's face showed shock. Catherine, what are you? I'm asking you to be my husband, to make this official, to build a life together, to raise our daughters together, to grow old together. She was crying. He was crying. Half the room was crying. Will you marry me? Marcus pulled her up, kissed her, long, deep, then pulled back. On one condition, anything. I get to propose too, because this isn't about you asking me or me asking you. It's about us choosing each other. He pulled out his own ring, got down on his own knee. Catherine Sterling, will you marry me? Yes, yes, always yes. They put rings on each other's fingers, kissed again. The ballroom erupted. Lily Rose and Zoe watched from the front row with grace. All three girls clapping. All three understanding that their family was complete. The wedding happened 3 months later. Small ceremony in the Sterling estate garden. Under the oak tree where they'd first admitted they loved each other. Judge Santos officiated. Full circle from Zoe's adoption. Jessica was maid of honor. Mrs. Patterson was matron of honor. Grace stood with them. Marcus had no groomsmen, just three flower girls, Lily, Rose, and Zoe, all three in purple dresses, all three beautiful, all three loved. The vows were simple, personal, true. Marcus spoke first. Catherine, you taught me that loving again doesn't betray the past. It honors it. Sarah would have loved you, would have loved seeing Zoe with sisters, would have loved seeing me happy. Today I marry you not because I've forgotten her, but because I've learned from her. Learned that love is worth the risk, always. Catherine's turn. Marcus, you taught me that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about healing, about choosing to be vulnerable, about letting people in. 5 years ago, I was frozen. You thawed me, you and three little girls who needed me to be brave. Today, I marry you as the woman I've become. Because of you. Judge Santos smiled through tears. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. They did. Long, sweet, beginning. The reception was joy, dancing, laughter, food, Music. Lily spoke into the microphone, her voice still weak but clear. I love Mama. I love Daddy. We are family, Rose added. Forever family. Zoe blinked 3 times at both of them. I love you. Catherine and Marcus held all 3 girls, their daughters, their family, their future. Later that night, after guests left and girls slept and the house was quiet, Catherine and Marcus stood in the garden. Married now, partners. Forever. We did it. Marcus's voice was wonder. We did. Catherine leaned against him, looked up at stars. Andrew would approve. She said it with certainty. How do you know? Because he wrote it, in his notebook. I found a page I'd missed. She pulled out a worn piece of paper, read by moonlight. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And you're probably drowning. Don't. Live, Catherine, brush and love again. Our girls need a father. You need a partner. Don't let grief steal the rest of your life. Promise me. Marcus's voice was thick. He knew. People who love you always know. They want you to be happy, even when they can't be there. Catherine folded the paper, put it back in her pocket. I'm happy now. Finally. Completely. Me too. They stood together, 2 people who'd lost everything and found each other, who'd built a family from broken pieces, who'd chosen love over fear. Above them, stars glittered. Below them, earth held firm. Around them, the house held their sleeping children. And ahead of them, the future stretched bright and full of possibility. Because sometimes the janitor is the hero. Sometimes the ice queen melts. Sometimes the children who can't speak teach everyone how to listen. And sometimes, just sometimes, love wins.